All right, factoring trinomials. So this, actually this video right here is gonna go over factoring trinomials part 1 and 2. So it's 2 notes in one video, and it's because they're very similar that's the reason why I'm gonna do that. So factoring trinomials. Before I go and dive into the actual how we do this, I need to go over 2 things. One thing is when I refer to A, B, and C, what I'm talking about is this. So I say, hey, what's your A value? I'm talking about the number in front of your x right here, in front of your x. I'm talking about its coefficient. So what's x squared's coefficient? I'm saying what's the A value? If I say what's your B value, I'm asking for the number that's in front of your x. And if I say what's your C value, I'm asking for the very last thing. Now also include these signs. So if I say what's your C value, say positive C or positive B, -9. All right, so that's that. And also this thing right here is gonna help us figure out or find our answers. So this is called the x factor. So the way we use this is we draw our x here, all right? And then we take A times C, whatever that number is, we're gonna write it up here. And then I take my B value and I'm gonna write it right here. And then the reason why you need to make this times and add, you can put a little dot here and a plus. What we ask ourselves is, what numbers multiply to give me this number down here, up here, and then add it up to give me that. So it sounds a little confusing maybe, but let's go ahead and get started. And I promise you it's gonna be super easy peasy. Let's go. All right, here's the first example. Step 1, draw your little X chart table, whatever you wanna call it, your X, here we go, bam, okay. Then we know that this is A times C here, and then B goes here, and this little dot's gonna represent times, and this little plus will represent addition. So here's how it goes. I say, what's A times C? Well, what's your A value? What's your A value? So your A value is in front of here, right? So let's think about this. Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't run away from me. Okay, so here's your A, here's your B, and here's your C, right? Your A value is right here. There's a number there. It's not just 0. The number A is 1, right? It's a 1 right here. So we have a 1 for A, we have a positive 7 for B, and a 12 for C, positive 12. All right, so in order for me to get the number that goes right here, we have to multiply A times C. What is A times C? 1 times 12 is just 12, right? It's just 12. So that goes there. And then what is your B value? Your B value is a positive 7. That goes there. I'll do plus and plus so you know it's positive. All right, so now here's how it works. You ask yourself what 2 numbers multiply to give you a positive 12 but add up to give you 7. And the way that we do that is we list 12's factors. And I always start with 1 and I work my way down. So here you go. So like let's say 1 times 12, right? I'm just going to write all of them to see, and then we can talk about it later. 1 times 12, I know if I do 2 times 6 will give me that. Well, 3 times 4. And then I could do 4, but 4 is going to be 4 times 3, and I already have that written, so I don't want to do that. And I think that's it. All right, so let's look at these combinations that I have. If I multiply that, that will give me 12. We know that. But will this add up to 7? That's no. That goes away. All right, what about 2 and 6? That will give me 12, but when I add them up, that will not give me 7. 3 and 4 will multiply to give me this and add up. So that's what we want. So we want 3 and 4. Those are the magic numbers that are going to help us work. A positive 3 and a positive 4. Right? When I multiply those, I get 12. And when I add them up, I get 7. That's the way that it works. All right. So then what happens next? What happens next is this 7x gets broken up. What we're trying to do is we're trying to break this up. And why does it get broken up? It now becomes a 3x. A positive 3x, and a positive 4x. That's what we're doing. We're breaking up that middle term when we're using this little x factor thing. Now let's bring down what we have not used. I haven't used this 12, and I haven't used this x squared. So I'm going to bring down a positive 12. Oops. And this x squared. All right. What is the next step? The next step is what we call a grouping, but here's what we practice on Monday. We need to separate these, and we're going to focus in these individually, right? Just look at these separately. All right, so I ask myself, in this little group right here, what is a common factor that I can factor out? And the common factor here is going to just be x, right? You can factor out an x. Now, if I'm factoring out an x, you know what I'm going to say, right? We're basically dividing by x, dividing by x. So if I'm factoring out an x squared divided by x is just going to be x. And then 3x divided by x is just going to be 3. Bam. All right, cool. Now, I go over here and ask myself the same thing. What is a common factor that I can factor out? And in this case, it's going to be a positive 4. Now, if I factor out a positive 4, what do I have left here? It's going to be an x and a positive 3. Bam. Now, let's look at this real quick. this right here is x plus 3, and this right here is x plus 3. That's exactly what we're looking for. Every time we do this, we're looking for these parentheses to have the exact same thing with the exact same signs. Once we do that, we're basically almost done because these become 1. One little parentheses. X plus 3 is going to become 1 because you're basically factoring those together. So those become 1, and what's left over becomes its own parentheses, x plus 4. Right? So this out here, because it was not inside of parentheses, we're going to put it inside its own parentheses, and that becomes there. So I'd say, I know it's kind of a lot, especially if this is your first time seeing it, but let's do more examples, and then you guys will get it, I promise you. All right, so I'm coming down here. All right, so let's go ahead and draw my x. Bam. So this is a times c that goes here. This is b. And remember, this is times, and this is adding. All right, so here we go. Again, a times c. What's your a value? My a value right here is 1. Here's your b value, and here's your c value. All right, so let's go ahead and multiply a times c. What is 1 times a negative 18? Well, that's going to be a negative 18. What's your b value? That's going to be a negative 3. All right, so then that's when you ask yourself, we got to figure out what multiplies and gives you a negative 18, but when you add those two numbers up, we'll give you a negative 3. So first, let's just focus on 18 and not negative 18. So 18, so I have 1 times 18 will give me 18. 2 times 9. 3 times 6, right? 3 times 6, yeah. 4, does 4 work? 4 times, no. And 5, no, yeah. So 4 doesn't work either. 4 times, no, it doesn't work. All right, so let's stop right there. Now, is there any combination that when I use these two numbers and I add or subtract them, that will give me a negative 3? Yes, right? So let's see, 3 and 6 will give me them. So the issue is now is we got to figure out which one of these is going to be a negative. Because remember, if this right here is a negative right here and we're multiplying, only one of them can be a negative, right? Because a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a positive is a positive. So I don't want two negatives and I don't want two positives because this answer has to be a negative. So one of them. Now the answer has to be, it has to be a negative 6 and a positive 3 because a negative times a positive is going to be a negative number. But when you take negative 6 and you add it to 3, you get a negative 3. All right? So that's how we do that. All right, cool. Why do we do this? Because we need to break up this middle term right here. We need to break this middle term up into two different ones. All right, so let's go ahead and write that. This now becomes positive 3n minus 6n. All right, bring down what we have not used yet. I haven't used the negative 18, and I haven't used the n squared. All right, now this is what we've been doing on Monday, right? So let's go ahead and factor this. So I'm just going to look at these two terms together and these two terms together. All right, I want to separate them. All right, what do n squared and a positive 3n have in common? The only thing I can see is just an n. So if I factor out an n, I have one n left here plus 3. That's what I have left. All right, now what we have, so let's go to this next one. What do negative 6 and minus 18 have in common? So they have, what is this, a negative, we could take out 6 or negative 6. Let's take out 6 real quick. If I take out positive 6, so let's say plus 6. All right, when I take out positive 6, remember what I'm actually doing. I'm basically dividing this by 6, right? Dividing this by 6. Negative 6n divided by 6 is just going to be a negative n. And then negative 18 divided by 6 is going to be a negative 3. Now, the issue we run into is this is opposite signs of that. They're almost alike, but these are both positive and these are both negative. So let's not take out a positive 6. Let's take out a negative 6. Because if I take out a negative 6, it will flip the signs of everything, right? It will flip the signs of everything. So let's take out a negative 6. And this will become positive, and that will become positive. And now we have the parentheses matching. Now, since they're matching, they become 1. They become 1, so now we have n plus 3. Anything that was left over on the outside of the parentheses gets its own parentheses, n minus 6. And that's it. Just like that. Done. All right. So I'm jumping to the next set of notes now, okay, guys? It's going to be the same process. The only thing you're going to see differently is that instead of these numbers in front of all your a values are 1 right now, they're going to be numbers bigger than 1. So like 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. So this says factoring polynomials part 2. I'm jumping to this. Same exact steps. Nothing really changes, all right? So let's go ahead and go. Let's see. Let's start with this first one. Let's do it again. Make sure we draw my x. All right, remember this is a times c goes here, and b goes here. We ask ourselves what multiplies to give up here and adds up down here. All right, so here's my a, here's my b, here's my c. A times c, so 2 times 3 is 6, that goes up there. And then your b value is what? 5, positive 5. All right, so then we go, remember we need multiplies to 6, adds up to 5. The best way to do that is to figure out all of the multiples of 6. So we have 1 times 6, 2 times 3, and that's it. Because I could say 3 times 2, but I already have that written, right? Just this middle one, so I don't need to write that again. So the only combination that will give me 5 is 2 and 3. Is 2 and 3, right? So a positive 2 and a positive 3. I agree, yes, yes. Right, add them up, cool. Now let's go ahead and break this up because that was the whole point of that. We wanted to break up this 5x into 2 different terms. So this is now going to be 2x, positive 2x, and a positive 3x. Bring down what I have not used yet. I haven't used this here, this 2x squared, and I haven't used this positive 3. All right, now let's go ahead and group and figure out what we got. So remember, I'm looking at this here, and I'm looking at this here. 2x squared plus 2x. What do I have in common? I can actually factor out a 2 and an x. Yep, 2x. So then what do I get left here? 2x squared divided by 2x. It's going to give me just x. And then 2x divided by 2x. Anything divided by itself is always going to be a positive 1. Bam. All right, cool. What can I factor out here on this right side? I have 3x plus 3. I can factor out a positive 3, right? And then I have, what do I have left? I have x plus 1. Awesome, because what? This parentheses here and this parentheses here are the exact same. That's what we wanted. So now they become 1, right? These two become 1. Whoa. All right, so now I have x plus 1. Now, what we did not use outside of the parentheses gets its own parentheses, right? So now we have 2x plus 3. Bam. See? Same steps, all easy. All right, one more, and then you guys can jump to your homework. All right, so we'll do this one down here. We'll do this one down here. All right, so same steps apply. Let's go ahead and multiply. All right, we have a times c. Here's b times here plus here. All right, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. So we have a, here's b, here's c. All right, so we have 6 times a negative 4 is going to be a negative 24. All right, what goes down here? A negative 5. Ask myself what numbers multiply to give me a negative 24. Let's just actually do 24 because it's going to be the same thing. So let's see, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, yeah, 4 times 6. Can we stop anywhere? I think we can. We know 5 would not work, right? 6 would be 6 times 4, and then we're repeating, so we just stop there. All right, we repeat and we stop there. All right, so I think the only combination that's actually going to work is going to be a 3 and an 8. Those are the only numbers that I know if I combine or add or subtract them, I'll get a 5. So let's do 3 and an 8, but we still got to figure out because I need a negative 24 and a negative 5. So let's think about this. Only one has to be negative because remember, a negative and a positive is a negative number. So I'm thinking it has to be a negative 8 and a positive 3 because when I add 3 and a negative 8, I get a negative 5. All right, so let's go and separate this into 2 different ones. Let's see. I'm going to do negative 8 first. I want to show you guys something different. So I'm going to say negative 8y, positive 3y. All right, bring down what I haven't used yet. I haven't used this minus 4, and I haven't used this 6y squared. All right, now again, we do the grouping, right? We look at this here, and we look at this here. All right, now let's go ahead and factor. So 6y squared minus 8y, what can we factor out? I think we can only factor out a 2y. So let's factor out a 2y. Yes. So then what is 2 divided by, or 6 divided by 2? That's going to be a 3. And what's y squared divided by y? That's just going to be y. All right, so we have minus, what's 2, or 8, negative 8 divided by 2 is going to be a negative 4. And then y divided by y is going to be 1. But I'm not going to write that. All right, boom. All right, now let's look at something real quick. This is my parentheses, and this is what I have before I even go to the steps with my second parentheses. Don't you guys see something real quick? I have the same thing. So what do I factor out so I make sure that this doesn't change? right? That's the issue. Let's factor out a positive 1, Because if I factor out a positive 1, it will change nothing, right? It will change nothing. So then I have 3y minus 4. Because if I multiply this 1 back in, nothing changes, right? A positive 1 times anything is always itself. All right, bam. So let's keep it like that. 3y minus 4, 3y minus 4. We have the same things in the parentheses. That's what we want. So 3y minus 4 become 1, right? And then what's left on the outside gets its own parentheses. All right, so we have 2y plus 1, and voila, we are done. All right, so that concludes your notes for today. That was factoring polynomials part 1 and 2. So if you have any questions and you're still confused, please see me during tutoring. Please see me during tutoring. All right, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you later.